Hi everyone, this is Jennifer McGuire. Recently I have been getting a few emails asking for me to do a product release close-up video for the newest release from Altenew. In this video I'll show you their newest stamp sets along with some ideas for using the stamp sets. Now this is a newer company and it was actually started by two card makers, which is really a great thing because you know that the stamps that have been designed are really designed with card making in mind and with techniques in mind. So there are some really great products. I'm going to start with the Lacy Scrolls. This one I've actually already used because I liked it so much, and I will actually link here to a video that I did where I showed how to make these two cards where I stamped with a solid ink and then I added some highlighting with colored pencils. It's really a fun technique. It's kind of hard to see in this photo, but there you can see a little bit of the depth that you can get. And I'll put a link here and in my YouTube description so you can check it out. The link will be up here in the corner. If you're not seeing it there, that means you may have your annotations turned off or you're on a mobile device. But if you check in the description below, you'll be able to see those. I really like this stamp set because it can be very feminine, or you can skip the flowers and just do the leaves and create something that is masculine. So this is great for any techniques where you need a solid image to use it. So maybe a kissing technique or a resist technique. The next stamp set has a similar feel to the last one, but Peony Scrolls is an outline stamp set. This is a great set because it is super fine outline, which I really love, and it's great for practicing maybe your watercolor skills or your Copic marker coloring skills. There are also leaves in this, so if you want it to have a masculine feel, you can also. Now I have done a technique with watercolor, shimmer watercolor, using a stamp set from Altenew that is a little bit similar to this one, and I'll link to that up here in the corner or in my YouTube description below. But I'm always looking for good outline floral images to practice whatever color medium I'm really into at the moment. Now there are several stamp sets in this release that are excellent for building up images. This is the first. It's called Whimsical Flowers. And what I like is that the solid images and the outline images match up, so you can stamp the solid and the outline right on top of it, and it'll look like you did the coloring, but it saves a ton of time. And of course you could stamp the solid and the outline separately. Now I asked Tasneem and Jennifer, who own Altenew, if I could use some of the cards that they shared on their blog in this video, and they said yes. This is one from their blog that I think is beautiful, and it's a good demonstration of the stamp set. You can see the solid and the outline that match up perfectly, and you can create a really beautiful card in no time flat. And this stamp set is very generous in how many images there are. There's even a little stem that you can add onto the flowers. Another building type stamp set in this release is the Painted Poppy. This one's a little bit different because the outline image isn't complete. It's kind of a sketchy look. So what you do is you first stamp the solid images, which you see over on the right, and then you stamp on top of it the kind of sketchy images that you see on the left. And you can see it's really easy to line these up. It's very obvious how they go together. Here's another example from their blog that I think is beautiful, and you can see it looks like you kind of hand sketched around the stamping, but really it was all done with stamps. In this release there are also a few large stamp sets, and this is one of them, the Painted Butterflies. Now I've always been a fan of butterflies, and I think I always will be. What is incredible about this stamp set is that there are these outline, kind of sketchy outline images, and then a solid image to go with that, which you see here. These two go together. And then also another image that layers on top of that to give some depth. Now I thought it was best if I went ahead and stamped an example of this. I'm just doing this on some scrap paper. You can use any inks for this. I'm using a mix of inks here. I started with the outline with a dark gray ink. Now for the solid, I'm going to stamp that with a pink ink. Now you'll see me mess up here. I actually dropped my stamp here, but I just wanted to show you how it works. You can see how you get that fun kind of sketchy outline. Then I have the third image, which kind of adds some shadow or depth to it. So I'm going in with a darker ink, and check out the final results. I just think they're beautiful and so artsy and so much fun. I could never create anything on my own like this. Now there are incredible examples over on the Altenew blog, and I highly encourage you to go check it out, and I'll link to that. Here's one that they did with this stamp set, and look at that simple little butterfly. And this card probably took no time at all, and it's just beautiful. I also like it that in the stamp set there are some really beautiful, small, classic sentiments that could be used on a variety of cards, and I'm always a fan of stamps like that. The next large stamp set is one of my favorites, the Vintage Roses. I love this stamp set. What's great about this is they circled together all the images that work together. So you see that circle around that one? I know all 4 of those images build together to create the perfect vintage rose. And I love this because there is no thought that goes into it. Now what I'm doing is the most solid image is what I start with first with my lightest ink, and then I work my way up. Now you could repeat ink colors through this and it will just give you a little bit darker level of color each time, but I decided to use 4 different ink colors for this, and I get darker with each of these. And you can see how easily all 4 of the layers just kind of go on top of each other. Here I just did 3 of them, and you could stop there if you wanted to, but I decided to go ahead and add that 4th image on there. And you end up with the most beautiful rose. I like stamp sets like this that are really well thought out because then I don't have to do the thinking. And isn't that just gorgeous? So you could do this with any colors inks you might have. You could do it with dye inks or pigment inks. You could even do it with like a distress ink on watercolor paper and add a little water to blend all the color together. Now here I'm just using 2 shades of green. For the back leaf, I just did it with a light green. Then I'm using a darker green for the second layer, and then for the third layer I'm going to double stamp it with that same green ink, and you'll never know that I only used 2 colors. It looks like I used 3. Look how beautiful that rose is. I just love this set. And here's a card from the Altenew blog that I just think is a great example of what you can do with this stamp set, and it really doesn't take that long to put that together because they've done all the thinking for you. Okay, on a completely different look is the Doodle Blooms. I think this is a fun one that would be fun to stamp in maybe a gold embossing powder and add some color to the inside. You can keep this card very simple. Now, I am a big fan of sentiment stamp sets. This thank you one is a new favorite of mine. I've used this already, and I'll show you a card in a moment. What I like is that there are many sentiments that go well with a thanks sentiment, like kind of team up with it well. So say you have a nice thanks die cut. You could stamp this message that says like for all you do right underneath it, or you could stamp that on the inside of the card too. I like stamping things on the insides of cards also. And I used that stamp set to create this gray background on the bottom of these cards. I'm really crossing my fingers that they do a thinking of you stamp set like this one. Next is the Halftone Hello. This is another very unique stamp set, and you can use all of these images separately or you can use them together. One of the large hellos is really unique in that it kind of fades off on the top, so you get an ombre look with just 1 ink. So check that out. It kind of fades off on the top. I think that's so fun and unique. And also there is the large outline hello, which you could use separately or layered on top of this one. I think it'd be fun to stamp this with just a basic black ink and watercolor in it with like a rainbow of colors and just get a simple card. Next is the Sketchy Landmarks. Now this one I really love the sentiments in. There's our thoughts and prayers are with you. Up at the top right there is also the line that just says at this difficult time. So any thinking of you stamp or die cut that you may have, you can just stamp that little image underneath it or in the inside of the card. Unfortunately I'm having to make a lot of sympathy cards lately, so I think I'll be using this quite often. And the gorgeous image there would be so much fun to watercolor also. There are also a few holiday stamps in this release. I like the Poinsettia and Pine stamp set because it has a pine cone on it, which is great for masculine cards. I think it would be fun to gold heat emboss this in watercolor inside of it. I think that combination is really fun for the holidays. There's also a very simple stamp set called the Festive Silhouettes. These images would be great for just a simple gold heat embossing, and then you could take the little stars and add some color to heat embossing on top of that because you can layer heat embossing, just heat in between each layer, and add little colorful stars to say the tree or the ornament. Next there is the Lyrical Script. I'm a big fan of script stamps, as I've said many times, and this one is fun because it has kind of this handwritten calligraphy along with the type, and I really love this "He will bring us goodness and light," which I just think is a great classic holiday sentiment. The last stamp set in this release is the Invisible Alphabet, which I spelled wrong up here, just ignore that. Anyways, this is a very unique alphabet set that kind of fades off on one side, so you can have a large sentiment that you can create with this stamp set, but it keeps it kind of subtle and doesn't take away from the rest of the card. Now, I did want to mention, if you go over to my blog, which you can click to here to go to, I do have a giveaway of 3 of my favorite stamp sets from this release. So this includes the large vintage rose set, which you see in the back, the Lacy Scrolls, which is on the left, and the many thanks stamp set, which you see on the right. So if you just head over to my blog, all you have to do is leave a comment, and you'll be eligible to win these stamp sets. I also wanted to again thank Tasneem and Jennifer for letting me use some of their images from the Altenew blog here in this video. And please check out their blog and their YouTube channels, which I'll link to all below in my YouTube description. If you are interested in any of these stamps that I feature here, I have links below in my YouTube description, or you can head over to my blog at jennifermcguireinc.com, where I'll have links to these products and all the cards I showed here today. Thanks so much for spending some time with me, and we'll see you again soon.